Good day, Kavibal, and welcome to our Speakers Demo Reel webinar series. For the discussion today, the topic will be on the use of parable as springboard in teaching English grammar. Before we begin, take note of the following reminders. Make sure you are registered to the webinar to have your e-certificate of participation. Use and encode your correct and complete email address for you to be able to get your certificate at certificate.vibalgroup.com to generate your proof of attendance. Share the video using hashtag LearnAs1PH as our official hashtag to all our Vibal webinars. Experience learning, ka-Vibal! And now, to proceed with our webinar this afternoon, it is my pleasure to introduce to you our distinguished speaker today. Carlos A. Buraga graduated cum laude from Isabela State University, Cabagan Campus with a degree of Bachelor of Secondary Education, major in English. He finished his master's degree in education at University of Makati. In 2018, he pursued his Doctor of Philosophy in English Language Teaching at Metropolitan College. He also finished Doctor of Education in Innovative Educational Management at University of Makati in 2021. He has been teaching for 10 years in Makati High School as an English teacher. He is also currently assigned as the language coordinator for the senior high school department in the same school. He believes that our dreams do come true if we have the courage to pursue them. Ladies and gentlemen, let us all welcome Mr. Carlos A. Buraga.
Thank you so much, Ms. Jillian, for that very generous introduction. Good afternoon, Kavibal. Good afternoon, teachers, and to all our viewers who are watching right now via Vibal's YouTube channel. Magandang hapon po sa ating lahat at nawa ay nasa mabuti po tayong kalagayan ngayon. And again, thank you, Vibal, for this opportunity to be part of Speakers Demo Reel. And please allow me to share my screen. It's actually the second week when Department of Education opened its school year 2021-2022. And I know that teachers are very busy right now preparing lesson plans and instructional materials to be used in teaching. I believe that, the second year of new normal education is still very challenging kahit pa sabihin natin na we are already adjusted, especially on the delivery of curriculum and instruction to be able to develop the appropriate learning competencies among our learners. This afternoon, I am going to show you how I integrate grammar lesson with the use of parable. So this is the outline of our presentation this afternoon. I will start with defining what parable is and how I use it in teaching grammar lesson. I will also be showing you the different activities that I use in my class, especially group activities that I give my students right after the discussion of the lesson. We will also cover these questions. As a public school teacher, especially English teacher, the question is, how can we help promote the advocacy of developing or enhancing values among our students? It is a given fact that literary pieces are good sources of teaching values and developing comprehension skills among our students. And in this demo reel, I specifically chose the use of parables among any other literary genres because my objective in teaching such is that not only do I want to use this as an introduction to the grammar lesson, but I also want them to fall in love with virtues. And how do we do that? We want our students to be exposed to the right kind of stories, music, and art. In my previous demo reel, if you could remember, I also used a story, particularly the story of Helen Keller, in introducing grammar lesson to my students, which was all about the modal verbs. Second question is, why stories? Whenever we discuss literature to our students, aside from the idea that we use this as an introduction to grammar lessons, stories hold the students' imagination that can create, what we call attachment to goodness. And one type of a good story is a parable. And parable is a Greek word which means comparison. And it is a story of universal truth that uses symbolism and metaphor to demonstrate the moral intended to be taught. So that is basically the grammar lesson, okay, that I want to integrate using this parable. Third question is it possible, appropriate, and convenient to teach parables today? I am sure that every teacher knows that it is becoming more difficult to compete with effects of media because young people in this generation process information in narrative images. And I believe that the advantage of the parable over other types of teaching materials is that it is by nature which is playful and effective. And because our intention is that we would like our students to not just understand an idea or not just understand our lesson, but we would like them to respond imaginatively and emotionally to real life or even going beyond normal experience. And since parables generally use comparison, they are also rich in figures of speech, particularly metaphor. Therefore, are also good to make springboard in teaching metaphor to our students. In the topic that I'll be showing you later for the demonstration, the grammar lessons that can be integrated are figures of speech, particularly metaphor. Um, if we also want to teach about adjectives and adverbs and how to note details, we could also use this. And let's start. All right. Before I Before I start my class, I present to my students the house rules so that they are guided on how to behave and what to do during class discussion. Okay. Good afternoon, class. Please make sure that all your cameras are turned on and your microphones off so that we will have a smooth session for today. The following are the house rules that we have to keep in mind. First, be punctual and prepared for class. Second, observe proper grooming and clothing. You have to show proper behavior at all times, whether in your language or in your actions. And third, use your microphone only when necessary, right? So whenever your teacher asks you a question, you can unmute your mic. Okay, how are you today? I would like to ask this question because I want that before you came into my class, you are feeling okay, right? You're feeling excited, okay? And how do we do that? We have here um 6 pictures, okay? For me to find out how are you feeling right now, this is what we are going to do. I have here 6 pictures of people. And what I would like you to do is to choose one picture, and this picture reflects how are you feeling right now. Okay, now I want you to observe the pictures. Take a look at each of them. Okay, using our chat box, I want you to type the number of picture that reflects how you are feeling right now. Okay, and please do it right now, class. Go ahead. I want you to go to the chat box and type the number of, you know, um, picture that expresses how you are feeling right now. Do you feel excited? Do you feel tender, scared, angry, sad, or happy? All right. I think I'm seeing a lot of one. Okay. I also see 6. All right. Okay. I see a lot of 6 and I see a lot of 1. So I believe that you are feeling okay today. You're feeling excited and happy. Okay. Well, I hope that everyone is feeling good today because we are going to talk about a lot of things today in our class. This afternoon, we will be discussing about parable and we will read a story. I'm sure that you will like the story that is prepared for you. Okay. And a parable is a simple story used to illustrate a moral or spiritual lesson as told by Jesus in the Gospels. All right, I want you to answer this question. Okay. Have you read a story that is full of moral or spiritual lesson before? I mean, a story that has touched you or a story that has inspired you. Now, if you were able to read one, please share that in our chat box, or you can unmute your mic if you want to. Okay, I'll give you time. Have you read a story that is full of moral or spiritual lesson? Okay, Jane says she read about the parable of Good Samaritan. Jane, could you tell us what was that story all about? What did you learn from that story? Good. The story of, I'm sorry, the parable of Good Samaritan. Now, what did you learn from that story, Jane? Would you mind sharing that to us? Okay. Jane says, help when someone needs help and help without expecting something in return. Wow, that's great. Um, that's very inspiring, Jane. Thank you for sharing to us, Jane, about what you have learned from that story, the parable of Good Samaritan. And I'm sure that you will learn or you will feel inspired after we read the story in our discussion today. Okay, class, you have been pre assigned activities that you need to do for today's lesson. I already sent the activities in our group chat, and I also sent to you the video that you needed to watch and study that has something to do with our lesson for today. Well, I hope that you did your preliminary activities because we are going to check if you understood and if you actually did the test given to you. I told you a while ago that we are going to have a review of what you have learned during the preliminary activities that I sent to you. If you work on those, you'll be able to answer and participate in this activity, which I'm going to call
and I'll also
chat
send to you the
raise.
video that you
Okay,
needed
as the
to
name
watch and
suggests,
study.
you're
It
going to
has
use a chat
something to do
box
with our
again.
lesson for today.
Okay, and
Well,
you're
I
going
hope
to
that you
raise to
did your
provide
preliminary
your
activity.
answers. I'm going to give questions or sentences. And you're going to raise to provide your answers. I'm going to give questions or sentences. I'm sorry, words or phrases. Okay. And you're going to write your answer on our chat box, and you will have to make it fast because it's a race, it's a chat race, and I will tell you who among you answered the question first. Okay, so whoever answered the question first gets the point. Okay, so let us begin again. Um, the questions here have something to do about the preliminary activities that I sent to you. The first activity is to fill in the blanks with the missing letters that make each of the words complete. Okay? Now, I want you to tell me the correct words for the first question. What is the word being asked? Ready, go. I want you to go to our chat box and type the correct answer. Okay, so you need to provide three letters to complete the two words. Okay, keep your answers coming, class. All right, the first person to give the correct answer is Dominic. Okay, the correct answer is treasure chest. So the letters that we needed here are U, R, and H to complete the words. Okay, good. Let us go to the next one. What is being asked? All right. So in this activity, I this is how do you call this one? This is for the students to be able to understand, the words that might be difficult for them to understand, during the reading activity. So it is like, uh, actually not a motivation part, but it's more of unlocking, right? Unlocking the words or the difficult words for them to understand later the flow of the story. Okay, so we have here yanked, we have here mighty, we have here flinched, we have here muttered, we have here shuddered. Okay, so that's a vocabulary activity. The students just need to complete um, the missing letters to form word or words. Basically, these words are found in the story that we're going to read later. Okay. For our next activity, I want you to match the description or the definition in the arrow with the word hard to come up with the perfect meaning of each word. This is, again, another chat race activity. Okay. So the students will just match the word and its meaning. If the students could not still get the meaning of the word, maybe you as a teacher can add more definition or description into it so that the students could understand what is being asked. Okay, so the first one is heavy box for storing gold and precious stones. What is the answer? All right, the treasure chest. So the activity goes like that. It's like a matching type activity. Okay, strong, big, that's mighty. Trembled with fear, that shuddered. Okay, again, if the students could not still understand or could not still get the the meaning of the words being described or being asked, you can give additional or supplementary description. Okay, so we have here pulled forcefully and suddenly, that's yanked. Saying rude and insulting things, that's jeering crowd. Whispered, that's muttered. All right. Okay. I would like you to tell you what's our goal for today. And today's goal is for us to be able to learn the meaning of words and phrases as they are used in the text, including figurative and connotative meanings through the use of parable. So this is the objective of our lesson for today. Okay. Now, for us to be able to achieve this goal, we have to do a few activities for today. Okay. But ultimately, we need to get involved. Okay. I hope that everyone is participating. As we get involved, we will read a story. Okay. Next, we will talk about metaphor. And third, we will work on an exercise to check what we have learned and how much we have learned in today's session. So I think this is clear, right? Are we clear on this one, class? Okay, let us continue. Okay, the teacher reads aloud, but sometimes if I do not assign students to read aloud, it is, it's me who reads aloud for them, especially if we are teaching in the lower grade levels. It is also when you ask your students, you know, for example, if you as a teacher do not or is not assigned to read the story for them, you could ask your students to read the story. Okay, it is important, to ask your students to read aloud because it is through that way that you discover their potentials, their reading abilities. Okay, but in this session, I will be the one to read aloud the story for my students. Okay, so this is what we are going to do. I'm going to read a parable, and as we read, hopefully we will gain values and the important wisdom from it. Okay, but before that, let us have an activity again, and we will call this activity Foretell and Foresee Me if you can. What do you think is the title of our story today, based on the picture being shown in the presentation? Okay, just type in your answers in our chat box, or you can unmute your mic if you want to. Okay, again, Dominic says it is all about trees. Okay, well, the because that picture shows it, right? It might be about trees. Okay, so basically this activity will be more of a title talk activity. Now, through this, your students will have an idea on what topic is about or will be about, or if not this title talk activity or foretell and foresee me, if you can actually use um, this story anticipation guide. So what happens here is that you just provide the statements, okay, in the third column before reading the parable, and after reading the parable the students will review their answers if what they answered are right or wrong. Okay, I think we have been doing this KWL chart activity also, okay, to see whether the students have or know or have an idea of what the story will be about. So let us proceed to reading the parable of three trees. So that is the title of the parable that we're going to discuss today, class. The parable of three trees. Let's start. The first little tree looked up at the stars and said, I want to hold treasure. I want to be covered with gold and filled with precious stones. I'll be the most beautiful treasure chest in the world. Okay, the question now is, what do you think was the first of the three trees dreamt to be? Okay, the first tree dreamt to become a good, very good, a treasure chest. So in here, you have noticed that I give comprehension question right away so that I could see if the students were able to understand, the first part of the story. Okay, next. The second tree looked out at a small stream trickling by on its way to the ocean. I want to be traveling mighty waters and carrying powerful kings. I'll be the strongest ship in the world. Now, the question is, what do you think was the second tree dreamt to be? Okay, very good. The second tree dreamt to be what? To be the strongest ship in the world. Okay, let us continue. The third tree looked down into the valley below where busy men and women worked in a busy town. I don't want to leave the mountain top at all. I want to grow so tall that when people stop to look at me, they'll raise their eyes to heaven and think of God. I will be the tallest tree in the world. Now, the question is, what do you think was the third tree dreamt to be? Okay, to be the tallest tree in the world. Again, um, comprehension questions are asked, okay, by the teacher. as after the teacher read aloud every part of the story, so that again the students could understand the flow of the story. And so if they have questions or if they have clarifications, those will be addressed right away. Or you could actually ask your students to for example, kung hindi si teacher yung, if not the teacher reads aloud, you could actually ask your students to do what, partner reading, right? Or you could ask your students to read, um, you could assign the students to read and give them assigned part, okay, that they needed to read. And after which you